Yet this caused the pain and the feeling of his teeth. Yet the tension, it was shorter when a room full of doubters heard it speak. Well, those long days in laboratories, they got lonely. What were worth it since the toaster learned to breathe? Progress takes practice. Patience is a virtue not many have.
Welcome to another live episode of the Naturopathic Perspective. My name is Andrew Allshouse and I'm your host. I'm here with Chris Williamson.
Hi.
The co-host, and Dr. Adam Rinde.
Hello.
Dr. Rinde is here today to talk to us about his specialty, which is weight management. And you can call in, of course, the television show at 206-421-5004 if you have any questions about naturopathic medicine, weight loss, or anything we talk about on the show. So I want to thank you for coming on the show, Dr. Rinde.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, for helping me out.
You're welcome.
And we'll open up the show with a simple question. What is weight? When is weight management important in somebody's life?
Okay, so weight management is important when it starts to affect some of the potential long-term consequences of their health.
When is that usually? What indicators do you have as a layperson? Like, sitting around, maybe I think I'm overweight, maybe I think I'm not. What are some ways that I know whether or not I need to see a doctor about it?
Okay, some people use what's called body mass index.
Mm-hmm.
Short term is BMI, as a means to determine if you're overweight or obese. There's many calculations available. The term overweight is 25 to 29 BMI. Obese is anything over 30.
Okay, so is overweight something that needs to be managed, or does it? I mean, are there any risks associated with being overweight versus being obese?
Well, I think there's a really critical thing that needs to be mentioned about these measurements, and the main critical marker that when being overweight may be an issue is tied to abdominal circumference.
Okay.
So in women, when the abdominal circumference is greater than 34.5 inches in circumference, then we start to see there to be a concern about certain long-term health concerns.
And would that not be height relevant? I mean, me 34.5 inches and 6 foot tall lady, would that not be?
It's really not height relevant.
It really isn't, okay.
Okay, so 34 inches is the magic number?
34.5 for women,
34.5
and 40 inches for men.
And 40 inches for men. And what happens? What are the risks, I guess, when that breach is met, when that limit is met?
Well, obesity, the consequence of obesity is somewhat of a controversial subject.
Mm-hmm.
However, what is commonly known is that some of the risks associated with obesity are certain cardiovascular diseases, such as hardening of the arteries, problems with cholesterol, also diabetes, and certain cancers.
Wow.
There is a risk of suffering from those conditions once you become obese.
So which cancers? You said certain kinds of cancers. Which cancers would those be?
One of the ones that I'm most familiar with are certain gastrointestinal cancers, which is a fancy term for cancers of the gut.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so when somebody comes to see you, what are the most effective ways to get rid of the weight when people are overweight or obese?
So common approaches are to create what's called a caloric deficit, which is reducing the caloric intake and increasing activity.
Okay.
However, through experience, we know that there's much more to it.
Mm-hmm.
So
essentially what you were talking about is people that were cutting out calories and then doing exercise, including some exercise.
There is some good long-term studies that approach will work over a 6-month period of time.
Okay.
However, there's not any real good research about after 6 months of doing some of a caloric reduction and increasing exercise that this will actually stick.
Mm-hmm.
So my approach is generally to work on foundations of healthy weight management.
Okay. So you have, we call them foundations of healthy weight management. What are your foundations of healthy weight management?
Okay, so the first piece is diet.
Okay.
There's certain what I call fatal flaws in the American diet, standard American diet. And one of those is high fructose corn syrup.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about high fructose corn syrup? Why is it so bad?
Well, high fructose corn syrup is used as a sweetener in many of the processed foods that we see in our supermarkets, and also many packaged products and baked goods. It's a very inexpensive way to make food taste good.
Is it making them taste sweet? Is that specifically what it's
Yes.
doing?
Yes.
But it's not a natural sugar.
Yeah. Well, it's from corn, right?
It's from
So it
corn.
sounds healthy. Doesn't it? Corn.
It sounds healthy. However, the problem it creates is that because it's in a readily available form, it may cause problems with insulin regulation. Insulin regulation can lead to problems with blood sugar.
Right.
Problems with blood sugar can lead to excess storage of fat.
Okay, so you can actually ingest it as sugar and it can be stored as fat. That's not a good equation for someone trying to lose weight, is it?
It's not.
And can I just ask, is the corn syrup in the high fructose corn syrup the same as the stuff in my sweet corn?
In a whole corn?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Right, so we don't want to get confused with the healthy image of a corn on the cob and the high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
Okay.
One of the other concerns in the standard American diet, which is a fatal flaw, is we don't get enough fiber in our diet.
Okay.
Fiber is, I've heard statistics that the average American gets about 15 grams of fiber in their diet per day, when the recommendation is 30 grams of fiber.
Okay.
Well, that's phenomenal when you consider sort of bulk that people are eating, that they're only getting 15 grams of fibre.
Yeah.
How do you feel about these tortillas that are very common on the market? I keep seeing them in the supermarket, and they don't seem to be very big, and they have huge amounts of fibre in them. You can get one this big that's got 15 grams of fibre in it. What is that?
Well, I mean, I think that the important thing is, adding fiber to your diet. It takes a specific strategy.
Right.
I don't think it's wise to go out and start loading up on fiber.
Right.
You can get a lot of stomach discomfort or certain problems with digestion that may relate to loading up on the fiber. But I think those products are useful because it's really, for some people, it's hard to think of how can I get more fiber in the diet. And if they're switching from, say, a flour tortilla with low fiber to one that has more high fiber, I think it's a very good transition to getting more fiber in your diet.
What do you recommend for your patients?
So I think it's individualized. When you're working with patients, you have to, I like to see where they're at today. Making recommendations to go on a diet that's very complicated might not be the right step for people. So if someone is ready to make the transition into a whole foods diet based on being close to that, I'll recommend a whole foods diet that has fiber sources that come from beans, dark green leafy vegetables, and those are my primary food groups that I'll like to add.
What is a whole foods diet?
So a whole foods diet is food that's closest to its natural form.
Okay.
So it's
Live food.
Yeah, it's close to live food as far as what you would see as if you were to pick it from the garden.
So we had somebody on the show recently that was saying that basically avoid the middle of the store and keep to the outskirts, and that's where kind of the live food, the produce and the such like tends to be.
And
as a
yeah,
vague rule, as a kind of guideline, that's kind of where they tend to put it sides.
yes, that's true. And I've also heard that's the least expensive area of the store as well.
Right.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so if you have, your first recommendation was to eliminate corn syrup and then to increase fiber. Is that the foundations of nutrition, or are there more?
Well, a lot of, with weight management, what I really attempt to do is look at the overall meal. One of the problems with the standard American diet is that there's a very high glycemic load, which is another fancy word for too much sugar in the diet. So I look at meal planning so that there's an equal balance of certain proteins, certain whole grains, and certain vegetables, so that when you take in the food, there's not a spike in sugar and a spike in insulin.
I see.
So versus if you can compare eating a angel food cake by itself versus eating something that resembles a Mediterranean diet that may have some amounts of fish, some amounts of vegetables and beans, your blood sugar on the Mediterranean diet is going to be more stable, which will lead to less fat storage than eating, say, a slice of angel food cake on itself. So I look at setting up strategies, helping people set up strategies so that they're eating in a way that their blood sugar is regulated properly.
Are there similarities between the Mediterranean diet and a whole foods diet?
There are similarities. The Mediterranean diet has some components that whole foods, as far as whole grains and vegetables and beans, are an essential part of the Mediterranean diet, which is very similar to a whole foods diet. Now, the whole foods diet isn't specifically defined to include things that the Mediterranean diet does include, but the Mediterranean diet also includes things that are rich in monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats, and the common term are healthy fatty acids. So things like salmon and certain nuts, avocados, those are a crucial part of the Mediterranean diet.
Olive oil is very big, isn't it, with the Mediterranean diet?
Olive oil is a key component of cooking and in the Mediterranean diet. Now, one of the aspects of the Mediterranean diet that may not be popular with people in weight management is there is quite a bit of starchy foods.
Okay.
So this is an area of a deeper area of weight management that we're looking at is what kinds of starch. There's starches like potatoes that may not be healthy for weight management, but there's other forms of starches that are in things like beans that may be better for weight management.
Great, wonderful. I wanted to remind our audience that you can call in at 421-5004 if you have any questions about weight management or the naturopathic perspective. So we were talking about a few foundations of losing weight and good, healthy eating habits. And you had brought up eliminating corn syrup, having more fiber, and then you were talking about Mediterranean diet and whole foods diet. Is that it for diet, or do you have more recommendations?
I mean, those are, I'd say, great starting points. You know, like I said, everybody's individual, and what I try to do is find where the areas of improvement are based for a specific individual. So those are the foundations.
And then we also talked about doing exercise as well. How do you get people exercising? Exercising can be really difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand the message of exercise. So exercise, in my definition, is something that what I hope to become a lifestyle choice for my patients. With exercise, what I try to do is I first do what's called a functional assessment, so I can see how well people are moving. If they're moving with pain, it's going to be a different recommendation than someone who's moving without pain.
Okay.
The first step is to identify if there's pain with movement.
So if they are having pain, what do you do? I mean, how can you do exercise when it's painful?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is we don't want to create a further problem with someone who has pain. So one of the areas that I emphasize first is tonifying the musculoskeletal system through proper stretches and something that's called core conditioning.
What is core conditioning?
So core conditioning is a term that talks about strengthening the muscles that basically line your spine from your neck down to below your pelvis. So anything that lines your spine, any muscle that involves those groups, you're talking about strengthening them because they are the foundation of movement. And when you have a strong core, you're less likely to injure yourself, and you're more likely to be able to move pain-free.
How do you exercise your core?
So there's different varieties of exercise. A lot of what we've taken from core conditioning has been taken from yoga and Pilates, which are two forms of exercise. So a lot of these exercises are back strengthening exercises that can be done on the floor, and abdominal strengthening exercises that can be done on the floor. More advanced forms involve resistance balls, exercise balls, and also may involve certain strength machines or using resisted weights. So there's a graduated process that takes place based on where a patient's current level of conditioning is.
And how are you motivating people to do this? Because I would have thought this would be the very big caveat is that, someone comes into you, they've been years of overeating and under-exercising. How do you actually motivate that person to suddenly get up and start doing something? What is the motivational force? Or have they already got to come in with it?
Well, I think that a lot of people, I think we know, I think that most people know inside if there is a change that needs to take place. Yeah. I do think that we tend to worry about our weight a little bit too much as a society. Mm-hmm. However, if the motivation to change needs to come from something either internal or external. Right. For me, it doesn't make a difference. If someone's motivated by something externally, I think that's a great place to start. Right. An external motivation may be that they have
your daughter's wedding next year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, intrinsic motivations or internal motivations are, I want a better quality of life. Mm-hmm. I'm not really doing this because I want to look a certain way. I'm tired of feeling the way I feel, and I want to change. Now, that's a spark that can go a long way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Many people are, going to their doctor, and they're often told that they need to lose weight. And for whatever condition, there's all sorts of conditions people are blaming their weight on, I guess you could call it. Do you agree with that, or is that, do you feel like people are over-assessing that way?
Well, it's a controversial subject because the diet industry is gigantic, mm-hmm. and so is the food industry. So there's different forces. You have to look at where the person making that recommendation is coming from. A doctor recommending you to lose weight hopefully has your best interest in hand and is wanting to try to prevent you from getting problems of the conditions that we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a useful recommendation. I do think that it's really important, however, that we pay attention to who's making the recommendation, because it can feed into problems with body image and problems with self-esteem if we listen to the messages of weight loss too much.
Mm-hmm. And in your experience, have you seen people not be able to lose weight on your program or with your foundations of health?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, weight loss is not necessarily a highly successful venture. A lot of times it takes people many attempts to succeed at it. And that's why I try to look at this as being an adoption of a lifestyle, not necessarily a focus on a number. Mm-hmm. There is excellent data, though, about the benefits of losing just 10% of your weight.
Okay.
So I think that I can help people successfully aim for that realistic goal of losing 10% of their weight.
Of their overweight state, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So if someone's 200 pounds, losing 20 pounds.
Okay. And what about the quick start diets? I mean, psychologically, I would imagine they're a really good idea. If you can lose 10 pounds in 10 days, surely, I know a lot of that's going to be water, but, if you can actually see that, because although you say it's not a number, I think people do get very excited about the scale going that way rather than that way. And would there not be a benefit to that, the quick one, as a jump into the proper long term?
Yes and no. I mean, it can be motivating to get make progress that fast. However, really the strongest recommendations are to lose weight on a kind of slow manner.
1 to 2 pounds a week, is it? Or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask,
Sorry.
what is the scale that you use?
So the recommendations are 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week.
And that's fat, isn't it? That's body fat rather than the fluids and the
Yeah.
water retention and stuff.
Yes, that's what.
So probably naturally, you as a very overweight person, you would lose more in the first few weeks because you'd be losing a lot of fluid. Would that be right?
It depends. I mean, it depends on what method you're using.
Right.
Sometimes with resistance training and certain dietary changes, you might even experience a little slight increase in the beginning of weight while your body adapts, and then progressively lose weight.
Right.
So it's not cut and dry as to how people will respond.
So if you do have somebody who loses weight, how do you maintain the weight loss throughout your life then? I mean, you talked about it being lifestyle changes, but what are the habits, the long-term habits that people need to maintain weight loss?
Well, I mean, hopefully the improvement of their quality of life will motivate people to kind of stick with the program. I think after a 6-month process, there may reach a plateau where things need to be refined. So what I like to do is help people develop a plan that will help their body continue to improve and continue to make changes after a 6-month stretch. Mm-hmm. So, for example, changing the way you train with weights or resistance training can change the way your body adapts to that training. So, for example, someone might try to start off with core conditioning and reach a plateau, but then when we add a form of resistance training, their body's metabolism may increase. So resistance training is one of the primary interventions for weight management because it has the ability to change our body composition. Mm-hmm. So I think the important thing is to have a structured set of goals that after reaching certain goals, you set new goals that will help your body continue to adapt to these changes.
I see. And are there shortcuts, easy ways to do it? Do you find anything with your patients that they haven't experienced before that's really helpful?
Well, I think that one of the things that, as a naturopath, I'm often pushed to think about things in a way that are not common thinking. So everybody's been told to lose weight, you need to eat less, exercise more. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people out there that doesn't work for. Mm-hmm. And so what I've found is looking at other variables such as stress management and sleep, amount of sleep that people are getting each night as being variables. And also, I think it's really important to touch upon some of the psychology of associated with food and weight. Mm-hmm. These are variables that I've found that sometimes when touching upon the diet and exercise changes are not working, if you reach upon and talk about some of these other areas, you may see actually that these are some of the areas that might help people.
So you're not saying it's a simple equation between calories going in and calories going out?
Yeah, I'm a person who doesn't believe that it's that easy. I think
that's not easy. I don't think that's easy. I think that's hard, but I don't see any other way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think theoretically from a science standpoint, it is an issue of energy imbalance. So there's an excess caloric intake, and we're burning less calories than we're taking in. However, the body's, I think, that there's other variables such as stress, amount of sleep, and certain emotional components that can add into that equation.
Right, and stop you burning the calories, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that to help people get to that place of what is called energy balance or energy efficiency, when your body is burning what it is taking what it is taking in.
So are we talking too little sleep here? Because lives are such that we get stretched and we have less and less sleep, don't we?
Yeah, it's really hard to get the recommended sleep, but there actually is, an optimal amount of sleep. Obviously, we've heard is somewhere between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night. So they're finding some of the research that people who are sleep deprived have an excess of a certain hormone, which is called an appetite hormone called ghrelin, which they're more likely to have to overeat and to feel less satiated. And so it's even though the intention may be to watch portions and watch the amount that they may eat, this sleep deprivation may lead to kind of a hormonal instinct to eat more.
Wow.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time for the show today, but I did want to give you an opportunity to give us a place where we can get more information about you, either a phone number or an email or a web address.
Okay. Yeah, so the best place to reach me is at 425-736-1252. That's at Sound Integrative Health, my practice, which is right by Overlake Hospital in Bellevue. Or you could email me at drrinde@soundintegrative.com.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been an exciting show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Chris, for coming on the show and helping out. And I want to let you know that you can tune in next week for another live episode of The Naturopathic Perspective. And thank you very much and have a good night.